Mena-Watch, the independent Middle East think tank.
Welcome to a new edition of MENA Talk. Our guest today is Iman Sefati. He is a journalist for Bild, he is a native Iranian, and he is also, in particular, an observer, a political observer of the current events surrounding the uprising in Iran, and that is precisely what we will be discussing today. Iman, good to have you.
Thank you, and thanks for the invitation. It's vital we discuss this today, and I appreciate you consistently reporting on Iran, because ultimately we must report on these brave people in Iran. Every report helps and saves lives in Iran.
Mr. Sefati, you follow the developments in Iran very closely and also share a lot on social media. Considering the events of the past few weeks, what exactly sparked these protests, and how have they developed from that initial point?
The trigger was actually the protests from the Bazaar, from the merchants, the last pillar of the Islamic Republic, who for decades actually supported the mullah's regime. The Iranian currency has lost an extreme amount of its value. As a result, prices have risen. The merchants could no longer calculate what to sell or what to buy, and at some point they took to the streets. The first 2 days were indeed from the Bazaar, but developments have shown that these protests are no longer just about the bazaaris, or just women's rights or ethnic rights. It is a blend of everything, a mix of the student movement, the Bazaar, but also the general populace who deeply desire to live a life of freedom. And this has now spread nationwide with one significant difference. This time around, Reza Pahlavi, the Shah's very own son, has truly stepped forward and declared himself an opposition leader. And from the slogans of the people, you can also recognize that they are satisfied that there is someone in exile who will probably assume this leadership role. And that is precisely what was absent from the protests of the past 40 years, setting this particular instance apart.
Exactly. The current protest cycle is indeed very different from the previous uprisings that have occurred in Iran in recent years. What is the historical and political significance of this step and of Reza Pahlavi in this situation?
First, I'd like to say, we have many political groups in Iran, but also many ethnic groups. Reza Pahlavi is a well-known figure. Many Iranians know him. Many Iranians trust him because he's among the few who was a reformist, supported reform in Iran, backed leftist politics, and most importantly, because he doesn't harbor hatred for Jews. I must honestly admit, many prominent politicians who are also currently fighting against the mullah's regime. I don't want to name names, but many of them have a past where they supported reformists, where they, for example, issued letters that were against Israel. And people have seen that, and that's why this person is trusted. But on the other hand, it is also crucial to mention we can't decide today, right now, what form of government or which political figure will represent the country in a free Iran. The Iranians themselves will ultimately decide in a free election which political figure and what form of government they want to establish. Anyone who says the opposite is, of course, attempting to take away the right of Iranians, for which people are currently on the streets in Iran, the right to self-determination. So we don't know what will happen next, but back to your question. He's a man who has, in fact, now proven that many people truly listen to him, that he has succeeded in forging this significant unity within Iran, which is incredibly important and vividly shows that a leadership role during these protests is absolutely vital. And you can see it whether in Kurdistan, Baluchistan or Tehran, everywhere, people have chanted his name. But again, it's crucial to state, not all who seek the monarchy's return, not everyone who chants his name, including me. I am a Republican, but I support him.
Are there currently any other opposition groups or opposition units that might have the possibility to form a majority as well?
That's difficult to say. We have many opposition groups, among them, for example, the People's Mujahideen, which is much better organized than the others, financially as well, but in my opinion, they are extremely hated among Iranians. A group that, in my opinion, is once again leftist, Islamist, and not exactly loved or widely popular among Iranians. Additionally, there are numerous smaller political parties at play. But as I said, because they've made some mistakes in the past, like the People's Mujahideen, who collaborated with Saddam and intervened in Iran, or groups that have collaborated with reformists historically, it's exceedingly challenging for them to establish a majority within Iran. But I truly hope that eventually the Iranian opposition will collaborate, become unified, and naturally I hope that we all fight together against the mullah's regime. But I honestly don't see, I really cannot imagine that this kind of unity or this unification will be happening anytime soon. But Reza Pahlavi plays a significant role, because many people, especially from the Republican faction, Reza Pahlavi plays a truly significant role because he has succeeded in uniting many people from the Republican faction, many even from the left-wing scene, and also numerous supporters from the monarchist movement, to come together and for the first time to instigate major changes and developments, and then to likely take over the transition after the mullahs.
Thank you. Unfortunately, the regime has responded to the protests of the past few days with complete and utter severity, showing no mercy. And we're talking about a great many dead, abducted and arrested people. There was an internet blackout which is still ongoing. Barely any pictures, barely any videos are making it out. What effect is this brutality currently having on the population? Is it currently creating mostly fear, or is it generating even more resistance against the regime?
Yes, the images that we've seen, you can truly and clearly see just how brutal this regime is. When people went to the streets, the people went to the streets fully aware that if they did so, they might never return home, that they would inevitably end up in the mullah's prisons, and that they would be subjected to rape and torture. These brave men and women took to the streets with this knowledge, young and old, men and women alike. But now we've reached a point where it's evident that thousands were shot and tens of thousands more have probably landed themselves in prison. Fear is definitely present. The way the protests are carried out has shifted, with fewer people demonstrating against the mullah's regime in the streets. Instead, from 8 p.m. onwards, they are now shouting slogans against the mullah's regime from rooftops, balconies, and through windows, expressing their opposition. So naturally, fear is present. We are, after all, only human beings. We do not wish to die in vain or needlessly risk our lives, especially after witnessing that the foreign assistance we were promised now appears to be non-existent. The protest nature changed, but resistance remains. The resistance against the mullah's regime has never been this strong. We've seen the images. Never before have I personally seen pictures of tens of thousands of people standing before the Revolutionary Guards apparatus, yet still bravely chanting against the regime. The most beautiful example was when I saw images from Isfahan of people standing in front of the regime's thugs and chanting, "This is the final battle, Pahlavi, we will return." You have to let that sink in. We're not talking about demonstrations here in Berlin where police are present to simply maintain order, but about a government, a regime that is ready to kill you, to take you away, and to torture you. And that indicates that the resistance is quite strong. And even if it has now perhaps entered a different phase or a different kind of protest, I cannot envision the regime successfully halting these individuals from their acts of defiance.
The regime is attempting to regain control through these internet shutdowns and digital censorship. A degree of control it had, to a significant extent, temporarily forfeited. What role do digital media and the international public also play in this uprising, this, one almost wants to call it a revolution? So let's talk about Starlink, for example, which is an attempt to give Iranians the ability to continue using the internet. Is that relevant? Should people continue to help the Iranian men and women? Should they also try to provide internet access through things like Snowflake? How can people help?
Absolutely. According to media reports, there are a total of 50,000 Starlink devices. We don't actually know just how many of them are active. But the plain truth is, it's currently the sole means of communicating with the outside world. These devices are also very expensive in Iran. In Germany, they cost 300 to 500 euros, but once smuggled into Iran via Kurdistan or Bandar Abbas, prices reach about 1,000 euros, between 800 and 1,000 euros. When you consider that an employee in Iran earns only about 100, 150 euros a month, you realize not everyone can afford that. But anyone who has Starlink, all these videos that we've seen in recent weeks, especially since last Thursday, when the internet was shut down, have only been disseminated thanks to Starlink. That's why it is paramount that we, and by we, I'm referring to Western democratic countries, that we finally succeed in establishing either a very affordable or, ideally, entirely free internet access for the Iranian people through the to provide via the internet. I'm not a technician, so I don't know the exact methods, but I genuinely believe it's entirely feasible if Americans, Germans, and the French, actually have the desire to make it happen at all. But let's go back to social media. Social media is our most potent weapon. The fight on social media is very important these days. We can see that, for instance, on platforms such as TikTok, with what the Chinese have managed to accomplish, can't we? It's crucial that we, the general population, people like you and me, stay active on social media. We must offer these brave Iranian people a platform, generate public awareness, and actively engage on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and everywhere else to clearly demonstrate to our politicians that there is strong public interest. If our politicians ever decide that public interest in this issue has waned, they'll simply conclude, our constituents aren't concerned about Iran, so there's no need for us to take any action. And that will be the fatal mistake if it comes to that.
Exactly, you're touching on quite a good point there, actually. You've also been demanding for quite some time now that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps be added to the EU's terror list. That hasn't happened yet. The EU continues to be very hesitant and reluctant in this current situation. So how exactly would you evaluate the European political response up to this point?
European foreign policy, particularly Germany's, is, regrettably, nothing short of an absolute disaster. They've unfortunately failed, not just on Iran, but Ukraine and Israel too. We must also be honest about that. But let's return to the Revolutionary Guard now. Many politicians keep talking. They want the Revolutionary Guard to be put on the terrorist organization list. And they're always just shifting the blame to someone else. It is now, and I genuinely mean this with all my heart. The Revolutionary Guard must be placed on the terror list now. Not tomorrow, not in 2 weeks, not in a month. Right away, we must put the mullahs on display. Anyone who perpetrates terror, who shoots down their own populace in the streets, thousands upon thousands of them, must unquestionably be designated as a terrorist organization. And if someone claims others are at fault, then the names of those responsible must be mentioned. That means if Germany says the French are against it, then it has to be discussed publicly. We absolutely cannot afford to wait and deliberate for months on end again, only to find ourselves, in all likelihood, returning to the very same point we were at 2 or 3 months prior. It is truly time to openly discuss this matter in depth. Not only does the Revolutionary Guard have to be placed on the terror list, made into law, but furthermore, the ambassadors of terror should also be expelled from the country. People who have abducted our citizens, German citizens, like Jamshid Sharmad, taken them to Iran, tortured them, a government that has carried out attacks right here in Berlin, and even planned attacks across Europe, just like the former consulate employee from Austria who was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Such actions demand accountability and immediate condemnation. These embassy buildings must be shut down completely. I still ask myself, how long will we keep turning a blind eye? Not for the people in Iran. And it's also for our own security, ensuring no attacks are organized or planned here on European ground.
So, would those definitely also be some of the risks that arise if European policy remains so cautious and reserved?
Absolutely, absolutely. Firstly, for the people in Iran, we are probably going to see mass executions very soon, even if the mullahs claim that mass executions will never happen again. But a terror regime that is willing to shoot 5, 10, 12,000 people in a short period of time can no longer be trusted. The mullahs have only really mastered the art of selling their narrative effectively to us. They have only learned to lie well, and unfortunately our politicians fall for it again and again, whether it's the mullahs regime, the Assad regime, or Russia, Putin. Therefore, we must show there are consequences. We must not be afraid. We must speak clearly about the problems, and our politicians really need to act before it's too late. And as I said, again, not just for the people in Iran, but also for our own citizens. Just imagine, what if an attack against opposition members were to happen here in Berlin tomorrow? It won't just be Iranians or German Iranians who perish. There's a strong likelihood that German citizens too will unfortunately lose their lives. This regime supports Hamas, terrorist organizations like Hezbollah. They actually collaborate with criminal groups here in Europe. Therefore, our own security is unfortunately in danger, even if we, unfortunately, the politicians, don't want to face the truth.
Donald Trump had wanted to intervene, he'd wanted to come to the aid of the Iranian people, and now he has changed his mind once again. He now trusts the mullahs. He basically trusted their statement that there will be no more executions, as you just mentioned. It's naturally difficult to comprehend how one could trust a globally recognized regime known for terrorism and executions in this particular matter. He said, "We'll wait and see how things develop, keeping the military option in mind. How crucial would such an intervention have been at that very moment, and what impact could it have had on the situation?"
Look, the people weren't out on the streets because of Trump. They didn't take to the streets because Trump called for it. No, they were already out there. But when he said last week, either Wednesday evening or early Thursday, "Hey, if the mullahs shoot you, I will come and help you," that's roughly what he expressed. Millions of people took to the streets, hoping that Trump would do something about it. They were filled with hope. Today is Thursday. It's been exactly 1 week since Trump pledged assistance, and by now we're well aware that thousands have been brutally murdered and countless others have been thrown into prison. I genuinely find it incredibly irresponsible for the American president to extend an offer of aid only to then completely disregard and abandon those very people precisely when they are most in need of that assistance. I believe while I am no military expert, but if the Americans had launched attacks on military targets belonging to the mullahs regime, we would definitely have had fewer casualties. Then we would probably also have had a different result than what we have today. And above all, we would have sent a clear signal to the Iranian people, demonstrating, yes, we truly stand with you. We genuinely want to help you and truly dismantle this terror regime. However, if we merely offer assistance but take no action, if we confine ourselves to simply posting tweets, then we are effectively conveying a message to the mullahs regime. You are free to act as you please, and we will merely observe.
The people living outside of Iran, especially those right here in Europe at the moment, do they have a way to provide even more support to the Iranian women, for example, within the realm of regional politics? So, what specific actions can be taken right now, concretely, to ensure that these courageous individuals do not simply disappear into the attention economy?
The crucial thing, as you mentioned, is that no matter where people reside, be it bustling metropolises such as Berlin, London, or Paris, or quaint towns like Hanover, or even tiny villages, it is crucially important to write to politicians, to call them, to speak with them, and to make it clear that the lives of thousands, even millions of people are in grave danger. But even more so, our very own security here in Europe is at stake. When the attention dissipates and our politicians perceive that public interest is no longer present, then there's an immense danger that the mullahs will, in actuality, revert to their former practices, going back to operating as they always have. And when I say business as usual, I mean resuming executions, carrying out terror attacks, and funding terror groups. Therefore, it's critically important that we maintain contact with our politicians. Even if we currently have the feeling that, regrettably, we've been abandoned and left in a difficult situation. But if we let go now, the mullahs will have won. Therefore, my appeal is to all Iranians, German Iranians, and everyone listening right now. Please don't give up now. It is not the right time to give up. It is absolutely crucial that we demonstrate our fury, just as the courageous people in Iran have powerfully expressed their anger and resistance. Don't give up, we'll mourn later. This is the moment for action. Unfortunately, we are in a war, with only one difference. One side has the system of oppression, has money, has power, and also foreign support, Gulf states, and so on.
If we look ahead for a moment, how do you currently assess the future of this movement, especially considering all the challenges and the unwavering spirit of the people involved? Despite all this, is there still a real chance that the regime will fall?
Difficult, very difficult. I want to stay realistic. I don't want to explain or talk about fantasies, but I truly hope and wish for it. But even if we don't get the outcome we want, we've already achieved a victory. We have won here because we have shown the world this for the fifth, even the sixth time within a short span of time. The Iranians do not want the Iranian regime. We don't want an Islamist regime. We don't want Islamists in power. The young generation, Generation Z, the 16 and 17-year-olds who bravely took to the streets, clearly articulated and demonstrated the kind of democratic, secular Iran they truly yearn for. So, like many other Iranians, I am feeling a profound sadness right now, even if the final outcome won't turn out as we had so fervently wished. We have won, even if the price for it was or is currently very, very high. What's important is that our politicians have hopefully come to understand the true nature of the regime they are engaging with both politically and economically.
Thank you for that clear assessment, Iman Sefati, and for the important perspective on the current situation in Iran.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, activate the bell, and share this post on social media. Find more analyses, background, and discussions regularly at Mena-Watch. I'm Jasmin Arémi. Until the next MENA Talk.
Mena-Watch, the independent Middle East think tank. Also, visit our website. There you will find new daily reports and detailed, scientifically based background analyses on the history and present of the MENA region.